Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night, your heart pounding, your skin slick with sweat. The room is dark, but you feel a presence. Something vast, invisible, and ancient, hovering just beyond the edges of your awareness. It's not a nightmare, not in the traditional sense. It's deeper than that. It's as if your mind has brushed against a truth so profound, so unsettling, that your body revolts against it. You sit up, gasping for air, and in that moment, a question forms in your mind, unbidden. Who am I really? Not the you that pays bills, scrolls through social media, or argues about politics. Not the you that others see, or even the you think you are. But the real you, the one that exists beneath the layers of conditioning, beneath the stories you've been told and the ones you tell yourself. The one that whispers in your dreams and hides in the shadows of your thoughts. Who is that? And why does it feel so alien, so distant, so forgotten? Here's the paradox. You are the closest thing to yourself, and yet you are a stranger. You spend your life in your own mind, and yet you barely know it. You make decisions, form opinions, and chase desires, but how often do you stop to ask where those decisions, opinions, and desires come from? Are they truly yours? Or are they the product of forces you don't even realize are shaping you? Consider this. Every day you wake up and step into a world that tells you who you are. Your job defines you. Your relationships define you. Your achievements, your failures, your possessions, they all define you. But what if they don't? What if the person you think you are is just a mask, a character in a story written by someone else? What if the real you, the one that existed before the world got its hands on you, is still there, buried under layers of expectations, fears, and illusions? This is not just a philosophical musing. This is a crisis, because if you don't know who you are, how can you know what you want? How can you know what's truly important to you? How can you live a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and alive? Without this knowledge, you are adrift, a ship without a compass, tossed by the waves of circumstance and the winds of other people's agendas. And yet, here's the twist. The answer to this existential riddle lies within you. Not in some distant, unreachable place, but in the very depths of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious is the keeper of your deepest truths, the repository of your forgotten memories, your hidden desires, your unspoken fears. It is the part of you that knows who you are, even when your conscious mind is lost in the noise of the world. But how do you access it? How do you awaken this sleeping giant within you? How do you peel back the layers of conditioning, the walls of defense, the illusions of identity, to find the core of your being? And what happens when you do? Will it be a moment of liberation, or will it shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself? These are not easy questions. They are uncomfortable, unsettling, even terrifying. But they are also necessary. Because the alternative, living a life of unconsciousness, of sleepwalking through your days, of never truly knowing yourself, is far more frightening. So take a deep breath. Feel the weight of these questions. Let them sit with you like a stone in your chest. And when you're ready, we'll begin to unravel the mystery together. Because this is not just about self-discovery. This is about awakening. This is about reclaiming the parts of yourself that have been lost, forgotten, or stolen. This is about stepping out of the shadows and into the light of your true self. And it starts with a single, terrifying, exhilarating question. Who are you really? The answer is waiting. But first, you must confront the hidden forces that have kept it from you. Forces that are far more powerful and far more insidious than you realize. To understand why you are a stranger to yourself, you must first confront the hidden forces that have shaped you. These forces are not conspiratorial or malevolent. They are simply the byproducts of being human in a world that demands conformity, predictability, and control. They are the invisible architects of your identity, the silent puppeteers of your thoughts and actions. And they have been at work since the moment you were born. Let's begin with the most obvious force, society. From the moment you entered the world, you were handed a script. Your parents, your teachers, your peers, they all played a role in teaching you how to behave, what to value, and who to become. You were told to be polite, to work hard, to follow the rules. You were rewarded for compliance and punished for defiance. Over time, these external expectations became internalized. They became the voice in your head, the judge of your actions, the measure of your worth. And yet, this voice is not yours. It is the echo of 1,000 others, the collective wisdom, or folly, of a culture that values order over authenticity, safety over freedom. But society is only the surface layer. Beneath it lies something deeper, more primal, the human mind itself, Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, spoke of this shadow, the part of the psyche that contains everything we reject, deny, or repress. It is the repository of our darkest impulses, our deepest fears, our most shameful secrets. And yet, Jung argued, the shadow is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a vital part of who we are. To ignore it is to cut ourselves off from our wholeness, to live as fragmented beings, forever at war with ourselves. Why do we do this? Why do we bury parts of ourselves, even at the cost of our own happiness? The answer lies in our need for survival. From an evolutionary perspective, fitting in is safer than standing out. Being accepted by the tribe means access to resources, protection, and companionship. Being rejected means isolation, vulnerability, and death. And so, we learn to hide our true selves, to present a version of ourselves that is palatable, acceptable, normal. We learn to wear masks, to play roles, to perform. And over time, we forget that we are performing at all. This is where philosophy enters the conversation. Friedrich Nietzsche, the provocateur of existential thought, warned of the dangers of living a life dictated by external values. He called this the herd mentality, the tendency to conform to the expectations of others at the expense of our own individuality. Nietzsche believed that true freedom, what he called the will to power, could only be achieved by breaking free from these constraints, by creating our own values, our own meaning. But this is no easy task. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the void, the terrifying possibility that life at its core has no inherent meaning. Arthur Schopenhauer, another philosopher of the human condition, took this idea even further. He argued that the self is an illusion, a construct of the mind designed to navigate a chaotic and indifferent universe. According to Schopenhauer, our desires, our ambitions, our very sense of identity are all manifestations of a deeper, more primal force, the will to live. This will drives us, shapes us, and ultimately traps us in a cycle of endless striving and dissatisfaction. To break free, Schopenhauer suggested, we must transcend the will, to see through the illusion of the self and embrace a state of detachment, of pure awareness. But how do we reconcile these ideas with the reality of our lives? How do we navigate the tension between the need to belong and the desire to be free? How do we confront the shadow, the herd mentality, the illusion of the self, without losing ourselves in the process? The answer lies in understanding the psychological mechanisms that keep us trapped. One of the most powerful of these mechanisms is cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort we feel when our beliefs or behaviors conflict with our self-image. To reduce this discomfort, we often distort reality, rationalize our actions, or deny our true feelings. We tell ourselves stories to make sense of our lives, stories that reinforce our identity but obscure our truth. Over time, these stories become so ingrained that we mistake them for reality. Another mechanism is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs and ignore information that challenges them. This creates a feedback loop, a self-reinforcing cycle that keeps us locked in our current way of thinking. We surround ourselves with people who think like us, consume media that aligns with our views, and dismiss anything that threatens our worldview. In doing so, we create a bubble, a prison of our own making. And then there is cultural conditioning, the subtle, pervasive influence of the society we live in. From the stories we are told as children to the advertisements we see as adults, we are constantly bombarded with messages about who we should be, what we should want, how we should live. These messages shape our desires, our values, our very sense of possibility. They create a framework for our lives, a set of boundaries that we rarely question. But here's the truth, these boundaries are not real. They are constructs, illusions, stories we have been told and stories we tell ourselves. And while they may feel solid, unshakable, they are not. They can be broken. They must be broken, if we are to awaken to our true selves, to reclaim the parts of us that have been lost, forgotten, or stolen. This is the hidden problem. We are not who we think we are. We are not the sum of our roles, our achievements, our possessions. We are not the masks we wear or the stories we tell. We are something deeper, something truer, something wilder. And until we confront the forces that have shaped us, until we peel back the layers of conditioning and illusion, we will remain strangers to ourselves, trapped in a life that is not our own. But there is hope, because the very forces that have shaped us can also be unshaped. The stories that have defined us can be rewritten. The masks we wear can be removed, and the self we have forgotten can be remembered. It starts with a single radical act. The decision to look within, to question everything, to awaken the subconscious mind. And when you do, you will discover something extraordinary. Something that will change everything. But first, you must confront the unseen consequences of living a life of unconsciousness. You must see how this hidden force has shaped not only your personal reality but the world around you. And you must feel the urgency of breaking free before it's too late. The subconscious mind is not just a passive repository of memories and desires. It is an active force, a silent sculptor of your reality. Every thought, every decision, every action you take is influenced by this hidden dimension of your psyche. And yet, because it operates beneath the surface of your awareness, its power often goes unnoticed. You move through life believing you are in control, unaware of the invisible strings pulling you in directions you did not consciously choose. Consider this. Have you ever found yourself repeating the same mistakes, falling into the same patterns despite your best intentions? Have you ever wondered why you are drawn to certain people, certain situations, even when you know they are not good for you? Have you ever felt a deep, inexplicable resistance to change, even when you desperately want it? These are not random occurrences. They are the fingerprints of your subconscious mind, the echoes of beliefs and fears you may not even know you hold. The consequences of this unconscious influence are profound, both on a personal and societal level. On a personal level, it manifests as a sense of disconnection, dissatisfaction, and unease. You may feel like something is missing, like you are living a life that is not quite your own. You may struggle with self-doubt, anxiety, or a lingering sense of emptiness. You may find yourself chasing external validation through success, relationships, or material possessions, only to discover that it never fills the void. This is because the void is not external. It is internal. It is the gap between who you are and who you think you are, between your true self and the self you have constructed to survive in the world. But the consequences go deeper than individual suffering. They ripple outward, shaping the very fabric of society. Think about the collective behaviors that define our world. The obsession with status, the fear of difference, the relentless pursuit of growth at the expense of sustainability. These are not just cultural trends. They are manifestations of the subconscious fears and desires that drive us. They are the result of millions of individuals, each acting out their own unconscious scripts, creating a world that reflects their inner turmoil. Take, for example, the phenomenon of social comparison. From a young age, we are taught to measure our worth against others, to compete for grades, for jobs, for attention. This creates a constant state of anxiety, a fear of falling behind, of not being enough. And yet, this fear is not rooted in reality. It is rooted in the subconscious belief that our value is conditional, that we must prove ourselves to be worthy of love, respect, and belonging. This belief drives us to work harder, to achieve more, to accumulate more, but it also traps us in a cycle of endless striving, never allowing us to truly rest, to truly be. Or consider the way we relate to others. How often do we project our own insecurities onto those around us, judging them for the very things we fear in ourselves? How often do we seek validation through relationships, using others to fill the void within us? These patterns are not just personal, they are cultural. They shape the way we interact with each other, the way we form communities, the way we build societies. And they are rooted in the subconscious mind, in the unexamined beliefs and fears that govern our behavior. Even our relationship with the natural world is shaped by these hidden forces. The relentless exploitation of resources, the disregard for the environment, the prioritization of profit over sustainability, these are not just economic decisions. They are manifestations of a deeper, subconscious disconnect, a sense of separation from the world around us. We see nature as something to be conquered, controlled, used, not as something we are a part of, something we depend on for our very survival. This disconnect is not just harmful to the planet, it is harmful to us. It reinforces the illusion of separation, the belief that we are isolated, independent beings, rather than interconnected parts of a larger whole. The consequences of living a life governed by the subconscious mind are not just personal or societal, they are existential. They shape the way we see ourselves, the way we relate to others, the way we interact with the world. And they create a feedback loop, a self-reinforcing cycle that keeps us trapped in patterns of thought and behavior that are not serving us. But here's the truth. These patterns are not inevitable. They are not fixed, immutable, unchangeable. They are the result of conditioning, of unconscious beliefs and fears that have been ingrained over time. And just as they were learned, they can be unlearned. Just as they were created, they can be dismantled. The first step is awareness. You must see the patterns for what they are, not as truths but as constructs, as stories you have been told and stories you tell yourself. You must recognize the ways in which your subconscious mind is shaping your reality, the ways in which it is keeping you trapped in a life that is not your own. This is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to confront the parts of yourself that you have been avoiding. It requires you to question everything, your beliefs, your desires, your very sense of identity. But it is necessary. Because until you see the patterns, until you understand the forces that are shaping your life, you cannot break free from them. And when you do, when you begin to awaken to the power of your subconscious mind, you will discover something extraordinary. You will discover that you are not a passive participant in your life. You are an active creator. You will discover that the patterns that have defined you are not fixed, that the stories you have been telling yourself are not the only ones you can tell. You will discover that you have the power to rewrite your script, to reclaim your true self, to create a life that is authentic, meaningful, and alive. But this is just the beginning. Because once you awaken to the power of your subconscious mind, once you begin to see the patterns that have shaped your life, you will also see the patterns that shape the world around you. And you will realize that the change you seek in your own life is the same change the world needs. That the journey to self-discovery is also the journey to a better world. This is the unseen consequence of awakening your subconscious mind. It is not just a personal transformation, it is a collective one. It is a rebellion against the forces that have shaped us, a reclamation of our true selves, and a reimagining of what it means to be human. And it starts with a single radical act. The decision to look within, to question everything, to awaken. But how do you do this? How do you break free from the patterns that have defined you? How do you rewrite your script, reclaim your true self, and create a life that is authentic, meaningful, and alive? The answer lies in the rebellion, the radical shift in perspective that challenges everything you thought you knew. And it begins with a single, terrifying, exhilarating question. Who are you really? The answer is waiting. But first, you must confront the unseen consequences of living a life of unconsciousness. You must see how this hidden force has shaped not only your personal reality but the world around you. And you must feel the urgency of breaking free, before it's too late. The rebellion begins with a single radical act. The decision to no longer live by the rules imposed upon you, by society, by your past, by your own subconscious mind. It is a declaration of independence, a refusal to accept the stories you've been told and the roles you've been assigned. It is the moment you realize that you are not a character in someone else's script. You are the author of your own life. And it is terrifying. Because to rebel is to step into the unknown, to confront the void, to face the possibility that everything you thought you knew about yourself might be wrong. But it is also exhilarating. Because to rebel is to reclaim your power, to awaken to the truth of who you are, and to create a life that is truly your own. It is to break free from the patterns that have defined you, to rewrite your script, and to step into a new way of being. And it starts with a shift in perspective, a shift so profound that it changes everything. The first step in this rebellion is to question everything. Not just the big things, your beliefs, your values, your goals, but the small things too. The habits you perform without thinking, the assumptions you make without questioning, the reactions you have without understanding why. Every thought, every behavior, every decision must be examined, scrutinized, and challenged. Because it is in these small, seemingly insignificant moments that the subconscious mind exerts its greatest influence. This is not an easy task. It requires vigilance, discipline, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. It requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you have been avoiding, the fears, the insecurities, the wounds that have shaped you. It requires you to ask yourself difficult questions. Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I want what I want? Why do I do what I do? And it requires you to be honest with yourself even when the answers are painful. But this process of questioning is also liberating, because it allows you to see the patterns that have defined you, not as truths but as constructs, as stories you have been told and stories you tell yourself. It allows you to recognize the ways in which your subconscious mind has been shaping your reality and to take back control. One of the most powerful tools in this rebellion is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to observe yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, without judgment. It is the ability to step back and see yourself as you truly are, rather than as you think you are. And it is the key to breaking free from the patterns that have defined you. To cultivate self-awareness, you must practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the act of paying attention to the present moment, without distraction or judgment. It is the practice of being fully present, fully engaged, fully alive. And it is the antidote to the unconsciousness that keeps you trapped. Start by setting aside time each day to simply be. Sit in silence, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Notice the sensations in your body, the thoughts in your mind, the emotions in your heart. Do not try to change anything, simply observe. Over time, this practice will help you become more aware of the patterns that govern your life, and more capable of breaking free from them. Another powerful tool in this rebellion is self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is the practice of asking yourself deep, probing questions, not to find answers but to uncover the truth of who you are. It is the practice of peeling back the layers of conditioning, of stripping away the masks and the roles, and of discovering the core of your being. One of the most profound questions you can ask yourself is, who am I? Not the you that pays bills, scrolls through social media, or argues about politics. Not the you that others see or even the you think you are. But the real you, the one that exists beneath the layers of conditioning, beneath the stories you've been told and the ones you tell yourself. The one that whispers in your dreams and hides in the shadows of your thoughts. Who is that? And why does it feel so alien, so distant, so forgotten? As you engage in this process of self-inquiry, you will begin to see the ways in which your subconscious mind has been shaping your reality. You will begin to recognize the beliefs, the fears, the desires that have been driving you. And you will begin to understand that these are not fixed, immutable truths. They are constructs, stories, illusions. And just as they were created, they can be dismantled. But this is not just an intellectual exercise. It is a deeply emotional, deeply personal journey. It requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you have been avoiding, the fears, the insecurities, the wounds that have shaped you. It requires you to sit with discomfort, to face the void, to embrace the unknown. And it requires you to be brave. Because the rebellion is not just about breaking free from the patterns that have defined you, it is about creating a new way of being. It is about stepping into your power, reclaiming your true self, and living a life that is authentic, meaningful, and alive. It is about rewriting your script, not according to the rules of society, but according to the truth of who you are. And this is where the real work begins. Because once you awaken to the power of your subconscious mind, once you begin to see the patterns that have shaped your life, you must take action. You must make choices that align with your true self, rather than with the expectations of others. You must take risks, face your fears, and step into the unknown. And you must be willing to fail, to fall, to get back up again. This is the rebellion, the decision to no longer live by the rules imposed upon you, but to create your own. It is the decision to no longer accept the stories you've been told, but to write your own. And it is the decision to no longer be a stranger to yourself, but to awaken to the truth of who you are. But this is not the end. It is only the beginning. Because once you awaken to the power of your subconscious mind, once you begin to see the patterns that have shaped your life, you will also see the patterns that shape the world around you. And you will realize that the change you seek in your own life is the same change the world needs. That the journey to self-discovery is also the journey to a better world. This is the ultimate truth. The rebellion is not just a personal transformation, it is a collective one. It is a reclamation of our true selves, and a reimagining of what it means to be human. And it starts with a single radical act. The decision to look within, to question everything, to awaken. But how do you do this? How do you break free from the patterns that have defined you? How do you rewrite your script, reclaim your true self, and create a life that is authentic, meaningful, and alive? The answer lies in the ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization that redefines how you see reality. And it begins with a single, terrifying, exhilarating question. Who are you really? The answer is waiting. But first, you must confront the unseen consequences of living a life of unconsciousness. You must see how this hidden force has shaped not only your personal reality but the world around you. And you must feel the urgency of breaking free, before it's too late. The ultimate truth is this: you are not who you think you are. You are not the sum of your roles, your achievements, your possessions. You are not the masks you wear or the stories you tell. You are something deeper, something truer, something infinite. You are the awareness behind the thoughts, the stillness beneath the noise, the presence within the chaos. You are not a fragment of the universe, You are the universe itself, experiencing itself through you. This realization is not just a philosophical abstraction. It is a visceral, transformative experience. It is the moment when the walls of your identity crumble, when the illusions of separation dissolve, and when you see yourself, not as a separate, isolated being, but as an integral part of the whole. It is the moment when you awaken to the truth of who you are, and when you realize that this truth has been within you all along. But how do you reach this realization? How do you break through the layers of conditioning, the walls of defense, the illusions of identity, to find the core of your being? The answer lies in the practice of self-realization, the process of turning inward, of peeling back the layers of the self, and of discovering the essence of who you are. Self-realization begins with the understanding that the self is not a fixed, immutable entity. It is a fluid, dynamic process, a constantly shifting mosaic of thoughts, emotions, memories, and desires. And yet, beneath this ever-changing surface, there is a deeper, more fundamental reality. The witness, the awareness that observes the self without judgment, without attachment, without identification. To access this witness, you must practice detachment. Detachment is not indifference or apathy. It is the ability to observe your thoughts, your emotions, and your experiences without being consumed by them. It is the ability to see yourself, not as the thinker, the feeler, or the doer, but as the awareness that underlies all of these. One way to cultivate detachment is through meditation. Meditation is the practice of focusing the mind, of quieting the noise, and of turning inward. It is the practice of sitting in silence, of observing the breath, and of allowing the thoughts to come and go without attachment. Over time, this practice will help you develop the ability to observe yourself, not as a participant in the drama of life, but as a witness to it. Another way to cultivate detachment is through self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is the practice of asking yourself deep, probing questions, not to find answers but to uncover the truth of who you are. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is, who is the one who is aware? Not the you that thinks, feels, or acts, but the you that is aware of these thoughts, feelings, and actions. Who is that? And what is its nature? As you engage in this process of self-inquiry, you will begin to see that the self is not a thing but a process. It is not a fixed entity, but a constantly shifting mosaic of thoughts, emotions, memories, and desires. And yet, beneath this ever-changing surface, there is a deeper, more fundamental reality. The witness, the awareness that observes the self without judgment, without attachment, without identification. This witness is the essence of who you are. It is the awareness behind the thoughts, the stillness beneath the noise, the presence within the chaos. It is the part of you that is always present, always aware, always alive. And it is the key to self-realization. But self-realization is not just an intellectual understanding. It is a visceral, transformative experience. It is the moment when the walls of your identity crumble, when the illusions of separation dissolve, and when you see yourself, not as a separate, isolated being, but as an integral part of the whole. It is the moment when you awaken to the truth of who you are, and when you realize that this truth has been within you all along. This realization is not just a personal transformation, it is a collective one. It is the realization that we are not separate, isolated beings, but interconnected parts of a larger whole. It is the realization that the boundaries between self and other, between subject and object, between inner and outer, are illusions. And it is the realization that the change we seek in our own lives is the same change the world needs. This is the ultimate truth. The journey to self-discovery is also the journey to a better world. It is the realization that the change we seek in our own lives is the same change the world needs. It is the realization that the rebellion is not just a personal transformation, it is a collective one. It is the reclamation of our true selves, and the reimagining of what it means to be human. And it starts with a single radical act. The decision to look within, to question everything, to awaken. But this is not the end. It is only the beginning. Because once you awaken to the truth of who you are, once you realize that you are not a separate, isolated being, but an integral part of the whole, you will also realize that the change you seek in your own life is the same change the world needs. That the journey to self-discovery is also the journey to a better world. This is the ultimate truth. The rebellion is not just a personal transformation, it is a collective one. It is the reclamation of our true selves, and the reimagining of what it means to be human. And it starts with a single radical act. the decision to look within, to question everything, to awaken. But how do you do this? How do you break free from the patterns that have defined you? How do you rewrite your script, reclaim your true self, and create a life that is authentic, meaningful, and alive? The answer lies in the ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization that redefines how you see reality. And it begins with a single, terrifying, exhilarating question. Who are you really? The answer is waiting. But first, you must confront the unseen consequences of living a life of unconsciousness. You must see how this hidden force has shaped not only your personal reality but the world around you. And you must feel the urgency of breaking free, before it's too late.